2002 Ford, actually it's a 2000 Ford F-150, and customer said he was driving one day and then smoke started coming out of the cluster there, and the car shut off, wouldn't start. He called a mechanic that came out and found a fuse here blown. He just wrapped it with some wire, the 5 amp fuse that's actually for the cluster, and he said the vehicle then started. But now the power always stays on. The key is currently off. And as you can see on the cluster there, you've got like the oil pressure light and those things. And here's that fuse at the mechanic jerry rig, as you can see. So he said he was able to start the vehicle after that. And I noticed also the mileage is not displayed on the cluster, so we got to check on that too. Most likely there's going to be a failure at the cluster, but there could be some wiring issue while there was smoke and while the power staying on. There's 2 cables for the cluster. When we took off this one cable, the cluster went off, and we noticed they made a union, and it goes here. All right, I think that's one of the switches. I gotta look. Some damage. If you look at this, we took off the back cover. You can see it was hot, and look at that right there. That definitely is damaged right there. Looks like it's a diode, and it's burnt out. And I don't know if there used to be one here and it's gone, or if that's a blank spot, but definitely that diode burnt out. Okay, here's the error code that is in the cluster, U1262. The PCM also reported an error code as well regarding PATs. And in the instrument cluster, in the live data, as you can see, vehicle enabled status forbid. So there was an issue there with the PAT system. And that cable that I pulled out, as you can see, there's no power coming in there, just the ground. So that told me there was some kind of internal failure in the cluster and power was going somewhere it shouldn't, most likely due to those diodes failing and causing power to flow the wrong way. Okay, we were getting PATS codes related to the key. I actually did test the key on my tester, and it was reading the chip. That does not mean the key is good, by the way, but that's a good sign. And being that we saw damage to the cluster, I'm going to recommend the customer to replace the cluster, and then we're going to then have to do a parameter reset so that the cluster will then be in sync with the PCM and the rest of the vehicle. And sometimes that might entail actually adding, redoing the keys, reprogramming the keys, and if you don't have 2 keys, possibly adding a second key. Okay, we got the replacement cluster in, and it is use cluster, key off. Now the actual cluster goes off, key on, and it comes on. All right, I'm gonna do this with the IM608. I'm gonna go to Emo, then Forward, try auto, no, manual, Ford, USA, F-150. This will be 99 to 2004, blade key, yes. Hot function, parameter reset, start. I think I got the ignition. Okay, now I got the ignition on, and if you can see that flashing theft now, we didn't have that before with the bad cluster. Yes. Okay, it is done. We're probably going to have to add the key now to this cluster because the key information is stored in the cluster. So the key for this vehicle has not been added to this cluster. It has the old keys from the donor vehicle came from. So if I try to start it, it will just be a crank and no start. So I'm going to tell it add key, start. Yes, it is on and the ignition is on. There it is. Now we got 3 learned keys. Actually, it was 3 already, so it should go to 4. There it is. Now we got 4. No, we're going to just go with that. And it should start at this point. So this is a stick shift, by the way. So let's see. The theft light should actually be out if I turn it on. Still flashing. I got to see what's going on with that. One thing is this cluster is from an automatic, And this car is a stick shift. Got a crank still. I'm gonna do a emo scan, see what it says. Check for codes. Let me erase all the codes report. So the codes are theft codes, so I'm gonna try to erase those. All right. We still got a P1260 on the ECM. I'm gonna do a parameter reset again because since I didn't have the key programmed, sometimes things like that can happen. Immobilizer, parameter reset. Ignition is on. Yes. Okay. Turn the key off and see if the theft light is still flashing. So I gotta see what's going on with that. Okay, here in the live data of the instrument cluster, it shows that the PCM ID is stored. So that's a good thing. I'm going to try to reset the PCM now. By the way, it is confirmed that the key is present. It's programmed. So we know that's fine. Once it says master key present, the key you're using is recognized by the instrument cluster. Guys, the truck is running. I didn't even do anything. All I did was I had my guy, he's actually under the hood, and test the red wired injectors while I tried to crank it to see what the power would look like, and the truck started up. So next step I was gonna do was try to reset the PCM, basically disconnect it to clear the keep alive memory, because sometimes it's just kind of like stuck. So by disconnecting the battery for maybe like about 5 to 10 minutes might do it. But it started right up this time. Now if I can get you to see that, the theft light operates normally. As you can see, the theft light is on and it's out, and I'm gonna start it up, and it's working. So in the end, the problem was the cluster. So a bad cluster can cause this issue, guys. So what it was, I replaced the cluster, then we had to do a parameter reset to mate the cluster to the vehicle, and then we had to add the existing key of this vehicle into the cluster, and that actually solved the issue, guys. So if you didn't notice, now you know, boys. And like I say, no one is half the battle. Click that thumbs up button, guys. See you on the next one. Quick note, guys, the used cluster that we actually installed was from an automatic transmission, and the original vehicle is manual transmission, but they're interchangeable. It worked, as you can see, just fine. You just have to change in the middle. There's a blanking plate from the manual transmission. That's where it shows, like, if you're in the drive selection, drive, park, reverse, and whatnot. So you just swap it out. It's just 2 clips.